Drought, war, and rising food prices have doubled the number of families facing malnutrition. You can help. $50 provides a food kit to feed a family for a month. Just text the word radio to 97646.
Is this the tackle?
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Clippers introduced James Harden to the local media Thursday. It was the first time Harden was available since his trade to the Clippers late Monday night. Harden said all the right things. He wants to prove that he really is a team player and that he can fit in with anybody and contribute to a championship run. Harden went through his first workout with the Clippers on Thursday. He will make his debut on Monday against the Knicks in New York. The new Big Ten Conference released its football schedule for 2024. USC and UCLA will maintain their annual rivalry game on November 23rd. First game next season for USC will be at Michigan on September 21st. The top two HBCU teams are in action Saturday. Number 9, North Carolina Central is at home against Norfolk State. Number 13, Florida A&M is at Alabama A&M. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 invites you to join us in celebrating the season of giving by being part of the solution. As we enjoy great food, family, warmth, and well wishes in whatever our festive tradition may be, we share the beauty of the season by reaching out to the less fortunate. Please help us to help others with the KBLA Cover the Houseless Cozy Community Coat and Blanket Drive. All you have to do is drop off new or clean, gently used winter coats and blankets in the KBLA lobby during business hours. Now through December 20th, all of the coats and blankets will be donated to unsheltered individuals and families experiencing houselessness. Simply bring your donation to 4434 Crenshaw Boulevard in Los Angeles, near Vernon Avenue, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. weekdays. That's 4434 Crenshaw in historic Leimert Park. During the holidays and every day, let's remember, we keep us safe. We keep us warm. We are the safety net. And together, we can cover the unsheltered. Get caught up in the spirit of the season, the spirit of love. Make a difference with your friends at KBLA Talk 1580.
Environmental justice, pollution, and climate. In Los Angeles and across America, people of color are suffering and dying from disproportionate health impacts on a planet that has less than 10 years to prevent irreversible damage. Heat illnesses, respiratory illnesses, water-related illnesses, food system impacts, insect-related diseases, black maternal health, and mental health effects. As the impacts of climate change mount, millions of vulnerable people, our people, are going to bear the brunt of these extreme environmental events, which will likely lead to forced displacement, loss of cultural identity, and other related risks. These realities are as real as rain. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details about the most progressive multimedia and live events campaign any black media outlet has ever undertaken to combat the climate catastrophe. Experts, events, empowerment. It's all on the way from unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580. We don't black down. We level up.
Level up, 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 level up. California.
KBLA Talk 1580, welcoming in for our inaugural edition of Freedmen Fridays. a community leader, a youth development advocate, and even though we say in California love, is a Buffalo State College alum, founder of the Green Campaign Incorporated, vice president of the Anti-Negro Defamation League, and chairman of the New Negro Republic Lineage Society. Rashid Littlejohn, welcome back.
I'm so happy to be here. Grand Rising, how are you doing this morning?
Thank you. Happy to have you back. I'm really pleased that you could be part of this inaugural show, because my intention is to be consistent in the conversation about reparations, so that we don't lose momentum, we don't lose focus, so that we continue to build on the knowledge and understanding that folks are starting to get. So thank you for helping to kick this off.
Oh, that's a beautiful thing. Freedmen Fridays, gotta have a Negro to become a freedman. So we here.
This is going to be every Friday in the second hour of the show, 7 a.m. hour. Why do you say gotta have the Negro to be a freedman? Yes, I throw that one in there. What do you mean when you say that? Unpack it.
Man, I think this kind of aligns directly where we're going with the conversation, because there's a few different sentiments as it pertains to the terminology that should be used around reparations. And, we've been bringing back the term Negro, bringing its vibrancy back. And there's others who also bring back the term freedman, which we are in full support of, but we don't believe that you have to separate the two. We believe that we were Negroes enslaved and we became freedmen as we were emancipated, but that does not mean that we are not Negroes, right? We continue to live on as Negroes, American Negroes, and accomplish great things. And it doesn't mean that in that time frame we were not freedmen. It just means that we don't have to suspend one for the other. So to have a Negro kick off Freedmen Friday, I think it just shows the connectivity that we all one and the same. That's all.
Right. And we're not going to go off down that semantic path, but we can, by the way, if you want to call in 800-920-1580. We can. We need to talk about all the things. All of it needs to be out on the table. That's why I say this is meant to be a comprehensive reparations conversation. All in. And you are part of also 800-920-1580. Rashid Littlejohn, you said we were Negroes before we were freedmen, and we've been called a lot of other things too. Some adoring, some not so much. But I've talked with friends and colleagues who say that there's a legal argument for using the term Negro.
Well, I think when we even tap into the subject matter today, we'll look and understand that the harms that we've experienced have always been based on our race, right? Our lineage specifically, right? When they said no Negroes allowed, they were talking about a specific people. So we just understand that it's a clean connection when we talk about the harms that we've experienced and the repair that is owed to those individuals who have been harmed. Even issued in Special Field Order 15, they say the Negro is free and must be dealt with as such. So we know that we were targeted much more than because of our skin complexion, but because of that blood lineage we had to slavery that was called Negro slavery. So we don't look to separate them. That's all.
Yeah. So when you refer to what we're getting into, part of your portfolio, I guess you could say, and as a reparations activist, is dealing with this issue of hate crimes. And here locally in California, there's been a marked rise. We've seen several sets of data that show that there's a consistent rise in hate crimes in the last 4 years. Now there's a new FBI report on hate crimes, and some people may be thinking right now, what does that have to do with reparations?
Well, we continue to live in this constant battle with the dominant white society that racism is over. we are all good out here. So, nothing is stopping us from pursuing, our happiness. And when we look at the stats and the data, we definitely see differently, right? And specifically in 2022, we're looking at a high amount of race-based hate crimes, right? Now, we got to get back to that race term and not terminology that I think some people are trying to run away from. When we look at the race-based hate crimes, it is showcasing that Black Americans, Negro Americans, American freedmen, whichever one you want to use, is overrepresented in the victims of race-based hate crimes, coming in at 3,424 race-based crimes against us. And the stats show that it was only 6,570 race-based recorded hate crimes. So we are 51% or more of that. And overrepresented in that other side is the offenders are 51% white, right? So if we were to look at how many of the offenders were white in comparison to us being the victims of overrepresentation, we could argue that no, it is not over, right? And we look at the scaling numbers from 2020, 2,871, 2021, 3,277 to 2022, 3,424. So we see race-based hate crimes against us is actually climbing, right? And we could look at that same time frame and see there were other groups who got maybe a task force or or a hate crimes bill. And then it's like, if we don't, quote, need another bill on the table, how do we get protections when we then look at reparations from an international standpoint of guaranteed non-repetition, right? So when we talk about what does reparations look like in guaranteed non-repetition, and then one of the biggest cries that comes from our community is an anti-Black hate crime bill, then we would have to look at the 1870 Enforcement Act, 1871 Ku Klux Klan Act, and continue to go through the Civil Rights Act in the 60s in XSL. Is something just not being enforced, or do we actually need something new to add that protection that is a part of the reparations conversation?
I'm smiling because you're teaching the advanced class, and I hope that y'all are keeping up, because there's a number of concepts that you just kind of went through, and I want to sort of drill down.
Yeah, we can slow it down.
Well, I don't know. Y'all let us know. Do we need to slow it down? 800-920-1580. I feel like you gave an overview, and now we can sort of we can go a little deeper in some of the things you mentioned. So the data from 2022, which is what they most recently released, shows hate crimes overall up.
Yes.
Overall, they're up, and the biggest increase was African American. 29% of those hate crimes, according to the FBI, a third of them are being perpetrated against African Americans. Part of what we see year after year, it's always this. But what we see in the reporting is whenever there's a change in another group, that's the headline. Huge jump against LGBTQ. Huge jump. This is not reflected so much in 2022, although there you do see a 10% of those hate crimes against Jewish people and anti-gay. So what we see the reporting on is always who's got a big increase, or in some cases a big decrease. In this report, there's a decrease of 30% among Asian Americans. But for some reason, nobody finds it remarkable that every year Black people are the most attacked by hate crimes. That apparently is not newsworthy.
It's benign neglect, right? It's the constant ignoring of the group that needs protections that once had protections, right? So when we get into, this conversation about reparations, and we look at, the lack of fulfillment of Special Field Order 15, then we have to get into the compromise of 1877. when the federal troops leave the South and then we are under this violence, right? Then we would look at that in the early 1900s when we had these black towns that we built up ourselves, pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps, and how a lot of those lynchings and a lot of those attacks was to destabilize us economically. So if we were to say we get reparations, direct cash payments right now, how can we ensure that we would be protected by the United States federal government in that key area of non-repetition, right? No more hate crimes or protections against those who have gotten their reparations, whether it's through direct cash payments and other measures. Would that make us susceptible to be attacked? And would that even align up with what true reparations is? So I look at it and I say the historic benign neglect and its negligence of enforcement to protect us has to be addressed in this conversation when we talking about we want direct cash payments, right? San Francisco's talking about $5 million lump sum. What happens with individuals who want to attack us? How do we find protections against that where we are not just becoming, self-defense, quote, vigilantes, where we are stocking up all the guns that we need because we see that the federal government, the Department of Justice, is not protecting us, not looking into the data and the research to curb this violence that everybody sees happening, but nobody's really talking about it. They only talk about these hypes in other groups like religion or gender identity. And it's like, well, we still represent and overrepresent 51%. And that could be people who still identify under the religions, under these different sexual orientations. But the core factor of us, hence why I said a Negro and a freedman, is still race-based, right? It's still specific to us. So we don't never want to lose sight on the fact that we are specific people that has had a legacy of race-based policies against us and protections that have not been enforced, that have been targeted and attacks targeted against us because of our race.
It's a combination of the advanced class and the 101. So when we talk about reparation, we talk about compensation, we talk about repair or rehabilitation, we talk about restitution, satisfaction, and this idea of a guarantee of non-repetition. That's what you were referring to in terms of hate crime. I want to go a little deeper with that. And when you said we no longer have protections that we once have, want to look at that. All that's coming up on KBLA Talk 1580 Freedmen Fridays.
More of First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward. Environmental justice, pollution, and climate. In Los Angeles and across America, people of color are suffering and dying from disproportionate health impacts on a planet that has less than 10 years to prevent irreversible damage. Heat illnesses, respiratory illnesses, water-related illnesses, food system impacts, insect-related diseases, black maternal health, and mental health effects. As the impacts of climate change mount, millions of vulnerable people, our people, are going to bear the brunt of these extreme environmental events, which will likely lead to forced displacement, loss of cultural identity, and other related risks. These realities are as real as rain. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details about the most progressive multimedia and live events campaign any black media outlet has ever undertaken to combat the climate catastrophe. Experts, events, empowerment. It's all on the way from unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580. We don't black down. We level up.
Level up, 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 level up.
Girl, I have a secret. When I get stressed out, I get sweaty. That's why I use Secret Clinical Antiperspirant. It's like my own secret weapon. For 72 hours, I get Secret's strongest protection against sweat caused by stress, heat, and activity, because you know how crazy life can get. Plus, it's made with advanced odor fighters that don't just cover up smelliness. They help prevent it from happening in the first place. Believe me, if I weren't wearing Secret, I'd be a hot, smelly mess. Thankfully, Secret works.
No young person should ever have to worry about having a safe place to sleep at night, or whether anyone cares about them. But the reality is, 1 in 10 young adults will experience a form of homelessness this year.
For over 50 years, Covenant House has been helping youth in crisis and giving them the support and tools they need to succeed in life. To learn more, go to covenanthouse.org today. Thank you for caring.
Hey, son. How are you feeling?
I'm fine, Pops.
What's on your mind?
I can't explain it. Navigating without a compass, eyes waiting, started to wonder. Metamorphosis, the loss of who you thought you was.
When your kid can't find the language, help them find the lyrics. Listen to the Sound It Out album and get tips and tools to start a conversation at sounditouttogether.org. Brought to you by Ad Council and Pivotal Ventures.
Ugh, I don't have time for a cold.
Honey.
Honey?
You need DayQuil Severe Honey flavor.
DayQuil Severe Honey gives you powerful cold and flu symptom relief with a honey-licious taste. Because life doesn't stop for a cold.
Okay, I'm ready to go.
Now I'm getting a cold.
Honey.
Try DayQuil Severe Honey for powerful cold and flu relief. DayQuil Severe Honey flavor. The daytime coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever, honey-licious. Power through your day, medicine. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Your floors can go from clean to dirty fast. From juice spills, whoops, to muddy paw prints, to little sticky finger marks. Good thing your Swiffer WetJet works fast too. Swiffer WetJet easily cleans everyday messes as quick as they happen. The next mess is right around the corner. So grab your Swiffer WetJet and just spray, push, all clean.
At Charmin, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
When you're rolling Charmin, ultra soft on the party. Less is more, so roll it back, everybody. Charmin's irresistibly soft and hella nice. The grip is always soft. It's our party vibe. It's cushion and clean, so our cheeks feel flat. So what? Everybody wanna touch the sky.
Charmin Ultra Soft is irresistibly soft and more absorbent, so you can use less. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
My ride smells just right, just right, just right, just right.
Y'all gotta try that Febreze car.
Just right, just right, just right. Yeah. La 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 la. With up to 40 days of consistency, all over Febreze car clips right on your vent. You know my car's my happy place. Keep that smile on my face when it smells just right, just right, just right. Yeah. Breathe happy Febreze.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DePrima on First Things First.
The conversation continues with you and Rashid Littlejohn. He's a community leader, youth development advocate. He's the vice president of the Anti-Negro Defamation League. And you were talking about hate crimes. We were talking about hate crimes and this idea of protection. You said protection, which we used to have. What were you referring to?
I mean, I think I talk about those glory years of Reconstruction, right? But I even start with looking at the Civil Rights Act of 1866 and even how Andrew Johnson, who was president at the time after Abraham Lincoln, wanted to veto that, So there's been a long fight for us to be seen as citizens, to have equal protection under the law, under the 14th Amendment. But even when we start with 1866, where it talks about, giving a citizenship without a distinction of our race, color, previous condition of slavery, or involuntary servitude. So it's codifying us as a specific people that have a race, a color, and a lineage to slavery all boiled in one. And we've had something called the Enforcement Act of 1870, the Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871, the federal troops that were in the South up until the end of Reconstruction, which when you get into the research and the studies, it says that was a time frame where we would have or had the most protection. And after this, quote, backdoor deal of what the Compromise of 1877 was, which seems to not be a written document, right? It wasn't a policy. We don't necessarily know what it was outside of the Democrats ceding the presidency. We don't really know exactly how that has hindered our lack thereof of protection, but we can just continue to draw a straight line of the continual harms that we have been under since that time frame. And we get into police brutality, right? We get into white vigilante violence when we think about the Buffalo shooting. I mean, you're in LA, we could talk about the Rodney King and how those officers were able to walk off, right? That led to that big riot. So it's really just saying there was a time frame where we had, quote, protections and or we keep getting these legislations in these landmark civil rights cases, but where is the protection? We could look at the James Byrd Act, hate crime
lynching,
act, where we're talking about, the lynching, and it's like, okay, where they drag it. These things seem to have been passed. So, a lot of the conversations we have in the background is this really an issue about enforcement, or do we need something now? Because a part of what we hear from the community is we need an anti-Black, anti-Negro, anti-Freedmen hate crime bill, right? We are specific lineage that has historically been targeted and attacked. We could delineate the numbers of these FBI stats and showcase that we as the Negro Freedmen community is highly overrepresented. And do we need another policy, or do we just need the Department of Justice to enforce what's on the books? And do we need the federal government and all municipalities to protect us based on what's already on the books?
So, I mean, just to be clear, when we talk about the Compromise of 1877, this is where, it was a deal to see who gets to be president. And the deal was Hayes gets to be president, but agrees to remove federal troops from the South, which were meant to be there protecting the newly freed Black people, Negroes, freedmen, African Americans, whatever term you want to use. And so that's, it's really like a backroom deal. And so when you talk about protection, you're talking about federal troops, which we have seen intermittently, right? Ruby Freedman, but not on a consistent, ongoing basis. And now when you talk about stepping up some kind of protection, if the protection is law enforcement, that seems ludicrous.
I mean, this is why it's great to have these conversations with the California family, because wasn't there a big expose about the amount of white supremacist ideology and members that infiltrated the LAPD, right? People displaying these different tattoos that connect them. So if there's the FBI, Department of Justice, has to investigate this, right? And if this is in Florida as well, if this is across the nation, then what is the protocols? What is supposed to be looked into as an American citizen, right? As a taxpaying citizen who believes that there's a system that should be protecting us. Where is the implementation of that protection when we can break out all of this stuff that's on the book?
Yeah, I mean,
and if we can't find,
there's an FBI report on that too. It's not just L.A. They're talking about the L.A. sheriff's gangs, but there's been a couple FBI reports that warn of the infiltration of white supremacy into American law enforcement. We saw it on January 6th with white supremacist police actually taking part in an attempt to overthrow the United States government. So I think it's been reported and we've seen it empirically. We're talking with Rashid Littlejohn, talking reparations, call it Freedmen Friday, but all are welcome. Whatever you call yourself, get in the conversation. KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Moore. Now here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Two of Donald Trump's sons testified yesterday in the former president's civil fraud trial in New York. Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump both took the stand Thursday and were heavily questioned about their involvement with financial documents for the family business. Trump Jr. pointed to the company's accounting department and others for any inaccurate documents the Trump organization sent to banks. Former North Carolina Tar Heels and Phoenix Sun star Walter Davis has died at the age of 69. The African-American athlete died of natural causes while visiting his family in Charlotte, that according to UNC. He was also a member of the United States men's basketball team that won gold at the 1976 Olympic Games. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Drought, war, and rising food prices have doubled the number of families facing malnutrition. You can help. $50 provides a food kit to feed a family for a month. Just text the word radio to 97646.
Is this the time? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Clippers introduced James Harden to the local media Thursday. It was the first time Harden was available since his trade to the Clippers late Monday night. Harden said all the right things. He wants to prove that he really is a team player and that he can fit in with anybody and contribute to a championship run. Harden went through his first workout with the Clippers on Thursday. He will make his debut on Monday against the Knicks in New York. The new Big Ten Conference released its football schedule for 2024. USC and UCLA will maintain their annual rivalry game on November 23rd. First game next season for USC will be at Michigan on September 21st. The top two HBCU teams are in action Saturday. Number 9, North Carolina Central is at home against Norfolk State. Number 13, Florida A&M is at Alabama A&M. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
This open enrollment season, LA Care Covered is offering health plans starting at $0 a month. Each plan provides benefits including $0 preventive services, 24/7 telehealth services, around-the-clock nurse advice lines, walk-in minute clinics, and more. Shop and compare premium silver plans with $0 deductibles to help meet your health goals. Ready to shop? Visit us online at lacarecovered.org for a commitment-free instant quote or speak with us directly at 855-222-4239. LA Care Covered, your affordable path to wellness.
What's up, party people? It's your favorite MC's favorite rapper, MC Light here. And we're celebrating 50 years of hip-hop, authentically powered by Cadillac. And we're going to take it way back to where it started. It was only fitting that hip-hop began with teenagers at a back-to-school jam in the rec room of a South Bronx apartment complex by an 18-year-old brother. By the way, I'm also sure he had a Cadillac parked outside. He noticed the energy on the dance floor when he switched between two turntables, extending the beats, repeating the breaks, and never losing the rhythms. And that was the birth of hip-hop. And from that moment, it took off.
For more on how Cadillac is celebrating hip-hop's 50th, visit Cadillac.com/audacity.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Only 1 in 5 people with autism are employed, despite many having the skill set and desire to work.
Maybe it's because employers don't know what kind of jobs they can do. Like, what about a programmer?
That's a job for someone with autism.
How about a healthcare worker?
Yep. That is too. People with autism can do a lot of different jobs, but often get overlooked due to outdated stigmas. Introducing WIN by Autism Speaks. We help businesses lead the way in inclusive hiring.
What about a ranch hand?
To learn more, go to autismspeaks.org/win.
Hello?
Man, where are you? I thought you were coming.
I can't. I'm in bed with the flu.
The flu? Whoa. Grandma's about to crowd surf. Man, I'll call you back.
Don't get stuck at home with the flu. A flu shot is safe, effective, and you can get it at the same time as your COVID-19 vaccine. A flu shot is the best way to prevent the flu and its potentially serious complications. Don't get flu FOMO. Learn more at getmyflushot.org.
Brought to you by the AMA, CDC, and the Ad Council.
Hey,
Did you know Vistaprint prints everything a small business needs? Like if a barbershop needs signage, we print outdoor signs, posters, and banners. Or if a ballet school needs merch,
1, 2,
we print tote bags, t-shirts, hoodies, hats. Or if a coffee shop needs a total refresh,
latte for Mike?
Vistaprint designs logos and prints it on menus, mugs, paper bags, anything. Because with Vistaprint, the printabilities are endless. Print it all with 25% off for new customers with code NEW25 at Vistaprint.com.
If you are a private individual or a small business owner who has had problems obtaining a business loan, credit card, or just even acquiring an apartment, please call Alliance Hillview LP for a free consultation at area code 510-459-6001. That's area code 510-459-6001. Remember, don't let your past determine your future.
Broadcasting live from Leimert Park, USA. Welcome back to your home for unapologetically progressive radio. KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. Okay, talking with Rashid Littlejohn. I'm getting distracted by people on the social media talking, but that's good. Get in the conversation. That's important. Rashid Littlejohn is with me. He is vice president of the Anti-Negro Defamation League. And we were talking about, among the various types of repair that are part of what we know as reparations, this idea of the guarantee of non-repetition, which means protection of some kind. And in the context of hate crimes, you brought up the hate crimes bill. I think, is a new hate crimes bill needed? I'm going to say no, because I think people got tripped up by the fact that it was named the anti-Asian hate crimes bill, but the funding was for anybody who was a victim of hate crime. That said, though, all of these bills don't seem to have stopped the attacks on Black Americans.
No, I mean, even when I was doing some research on this new FBI stats that came out, they credited the COVID-19 hate crime bill as decreasing crimes against Asian Americans. They did, right? So it's kind of like, is that by accident or coincidence, right? Is that because of an act that was giving them protections, you've seen a decrease? Or was there something actually enforced? Like, what was that? And even though it's this COVID-19 hate crimes bill, we understand that there was a specific attack against Asian American Pacific Islanders around some of that Wuhan Chinese vaccine stuff that was going on. And if that bill had been able to reduce hate crimes against that population, then I want to review the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Act, right? And why has that not reduced the hate crimes against us, which is one of the most recent ones that we had in 2010? Because over the last 3 years, hate crimes against us, race-based, right? The reason why we kind of been having this conversation is because we're looking at the FBI statistics on race-based hate crimes, and we are a specific lineage of people who has been classified as a race, and there are attacks that we have experienced because of those specificities of who we are. It's not just random all Black people. We could disaggregate that part of the data and show that, no, these are people who descend from slavery. These are Negroes. These are freedmen. So I'm not here to create an argument about race-based or lineage-based. No, I understand we are actually both. Like, you can't separate the attacks that we have experienced as the descendant community and these acts that have been passed for our protections under race, color, creed, national origin. And still nothing has changed in terms of what we see directly with the last 3 years of numbers.
800-920-1580. Everyone is welcome in the conversation all the time on my show. That's how we roll. All are welcome. 800-920-1580. So when we talk about, what it means to be safe, what it means to be protected, what it means to have the full force of your government, which we fund and pay for, to protect Black people, African Americans, Negroes, Freedmen. I just have some people hitting me up angry about the terminology. That's good. We can do that show. Let's do that show next week. That doesn't even seem like it's something that's going to happen in the United States of America. And it's not just based on Reconstruction. It's just based on the present moment. And so when you talk about this increase in hate crimes, is that an answer in any way, or does it create the case for the fact that this harm is ongoing? Some people would say that's not at all related to the enslavement, the so-called emancipation, and the Jim Crow era. It's just now, and it's not connected in any way. If you think it is, make that connection.
I mean, one, it's a connection because it's a negligence of the equal protection of the 14th Amendment, right? Which is giving us citizenship. We understand that slavery and the crimes against humanity and what we are owed simply because we were not given Special Field Order 15 is kind of where the clock starts, right? And then it continues to go. We've had these conversations on previous occasions about this continual chain of unbrokenness, right? This continual legacy of harm. And even if we're able to look at stats that showcase that we are still overly represented in hate crimes against us, how is that different than the hate crimes that we experienced with the bombings, and during the Civil Rights Movement? How is that different than the No Negroes Allowed and the attacks of lynchings that we experienced in the 1900s? How is that different from the massacres that we experienced in the late 1800s when the Confederates and white mobs were preventing us from voting? Right, where we needed federal protections in order to even have an opportunity to vote. We needed federal protection so we could protect our lands that we had at one point in time before, those massacres occurred. So we wrap this thing back to the guarantees of non-repetition and how repair needs to be in place with protections as well, because this whole thing is about reparations, right? Okay, we get a whole bunch of money and we get access to the fruits of, quote, white society that we've been left out of, or we finally get what is owed to us. Is it going to be protected, right? That's the biggest fear of why people don't even want to, quote, mobilize right now. Oh, if we get something, white people going to come take it. If we start right now, white people going to take it. It's so much conversations around people right now who the moment we have something, this fear that white Americans or white people or the dominant white society is going to take it from us.
You think that's you think that's a real deterrent to people mobilizing? I mean, I hear so many excuses and reasons. I hear, black people will squander it. My grandparents didn't hold slaves, or I didn't hold slaves. I hear that it's a burden on taxpayers. I haven't really heard people saying, "Well, I'm worried that folks will take it from me. There'll be a repeat of the Black Wall Street."
Well, not specifically under reparations, but just in general of when black people have something, right? If we mobilize ourselves to build a community, if we mobilize ourselves to own and expand our property, one of those conversations that we see and hear online is that protection part, right? Are we going to be protected in this fight for our repair once we get our repair, or are we left to our own selves to defend for ourselves? Right. And to anyone who has an issue about the status of the Negro, there should be a protected class. And if there's people that want to do that work, we need to focus on how to create that protection of lineage, of class, so we can move forward in a way that is beneficial to our growth in society. But I don't think a lot of people speak enough about in specifics right now about this hate crime report and exactly what does that mean when it comes to reparations.
You said a lot of things right there. What do you think it means when it comes to reparation?
That we cannot allow white Americans or the dominant white society to say that racism is over, that we are not still being targeted because of who we are, our lineage, our, quote, race, and this needs to be a continual part of the conversation when we talk about non-repetition, and if we need a new bill or if we need more enforcement of our equal protection under the law.
Do you think we need a new bill?
I would like to put them all together and call it the Freedmen Act of 2023 and become a protected class, right? If that's the goal, right? If we want to get past
when you say become a protected class, because theoretically, black people are a protected class theoretically. But how does that protection shake out? What does it really mean to be a protected class in a white supremacist dominated structure?
It means to me more lawsuits around the failures to implement policies that are set up to protect us. It means more reports and progress reviews on exactly what that looks like, because we're looking at 3 years that we have increased in the FBI, hate crimes list. Like, we've increased the numbers of being victims from 2020 to 2022, right? And being victims of hate crimes with no conversation about it, right? No anti-Semitism task force at the White House, no COVID-19, no, like how other groups are able to get some of this attention around it. It's almost like, yeah, that's black people. It's business as usual. Like, where is the outcry, right? The last conversation we had was about genocide, right? How many of these people that experienced these hate crimes actually died, right? And cannot be connected to continual genocide. Because not only are we being attacked, but we're still being murdered because we're American Negroes, we're American freedmen. Like, where's that part at, right? The national call and attention.
800-920-1580. Call me now if you want to get in the conversation. Don't just keep it on socials. I'd love to hear what you have to say. It's KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, Maisha Cairo here, KBLA, live at Chase Bank on Crenshaw and Vernon for the In This Together tour with female business owners, a day of empowerment, community panels, and best of all, tips on building business from marketing to capital. I was able to speak with one of the panelists, the owner of Kids Love. Take a listen.
So Kids Love, KIDSLUV, is a first-to-market zero-sugar, vitamin-enhanced functional beverage for kids.
So the zero sugar is really important because if not, the sugar gets on the teeth, it can cause cavities. So as a mom, I love this vitamins and hydration in one. Tell us what's happening here with Chase Bank today.
So I would say, I think what Chase is trying to do is create a community actually for entrepreneurs, a place where people can go. They have the space to do it. It's a beautiful space. And to be able to have these conversations. There are so many benefits to being a women-owned and certified business, from a standpoint of getting into stores, not paying the slotting fees of what it takes to be in stores. So I think Chase is trying to bring awareness to a lot of the things that people just don't know about, that not only the bank can help, but outside of the bank, their relationships can help create.
That's beautiful. And I know, this is how we build equity in communities of color, is kind of spreading that information and that knowledge. So thank you for being here today and doing your part and letting these women know that it is possible.
For KBLA 1580, I'm Maisha Cairo in the community with Chase.
At Susan G. Komen, we believe that ending breast cancer needs all of us working together. Because if you've just been diagnosed and don't know where to turn, we've got you. If you can't afford the treatment you need, we've got you. And if you are driven to honor the loved one you've just lost, we have a place for you here. Because of you, we're supporting those who need help today while tirelessly searching for tomorrow's cures. Visit Komen.org and be a part of our Susan G. Komen community today.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 believes in community empowerment. LA's 99 neighborhood councils form the grassroots level of the Los Angeles city government. The system was created to connect LA's diverse communities to City Hall. While neighborhood council board members are volunteers, they are also public officials elected to office by the members of their community. Neighborhood councils advocate on issues like homelessness, housing, land use, emergency preparedness, public safety, parks, transportation, and sustainability. They also provide local expertise on the delivery of city services to their various communities. Neighborhood councils are open to participation by anyone who is a part of the fabric of daily life in said community. This includes those who live, work, or own property or a business. If you are interested in stepping up to join your local neighborhood council, visit www.empowerla.org. That's empowerla.org. It's time to think globally, but act locally. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate meets a scholarly match.
800-920-1580. Folks in the chat talking about they trying to get through. Well, try a little harder because I don't see you on my phones. Rashid Littlejohn is our guest. 800-920-1580. It's really not that hard to get through. If you don't get through the first time, try again. Sometimes the phones be busy. Rashid Littlejohn, Vice President of the Anti-Negro Defamation League. Let's go to Phyllis calling us from LA. Hi, Phyllis.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
I do.
Yes. So, again, good morning, Dominique and Rashid. Great topic. Thanks for keeping the topic relevant. So I have a quick question. Has anyone heard or maybe challenged, let's say, attorneys Larry Elders and Leo Terrell for speaking out against San Francisco's proposed $5 million for each longtime resident?
Well, I haven't challenged Leo Terrell, but those of you who listen to my show know I'm forever challenging Larry Elder, not just about that, but about everything he says. I'm not sure if you're familiar, Rashid Littlejohn, these are black conservatives who have come out hard against reparation of any kind, and specifically San Francisco.
No.
Well, that's the conservative thing, right?
Go ahead.
Normally hear that coming from that. I said we normally hear that coming out from that side. You know, that's to pull yourself up by your bootstrap side. But I don't think that it's gonna make any effect because the report is already out. They did the work. They've already made their recommendations, and now the community is gonna be louder than what their own opinions are.
Well, these are people with big platforms. I mean, you know, really big platforms. Mr. Elder just threw in the towel on his run for president. So, more on that later. But yeah,
I mean, but even to those type of ideologies, right? I didn't hear much of what he positioned as a policy, right? His policy was, you know, we gotta get our women off welfare. We gotta, you know, it was like, all right, man.
Well,
like,
it's the conversation. I mean, the talking point is that reparation is a handout, that it's, you know, that it's a form of welfare, that it's something that, you know, is not fair to other citizens of this country.
Well, we know it's a debt, right? And it's not a handout. It's a debt that is owed that has not been paid. And we could, you know, even like we've done it so many times. We could take away slavery. What happened with this era? We could take away that era. Okay, what happened during Jim Crow? Like, okay, let's focus on what happened in the post-slavery Reconstruction era. Like, there's so many areas that we could go and say these are harms that we experienced from a lineal perspective, and the damages that has created generationally when it comes to our equity and our economic footing in the United States of America. So it's not a handout, it's actually repair, you know. But again, these people know that I think there's an ideology that they stand on, and they you know, pander towards a thought box that is anti us anyway, right?
Phyllis, go ahead.
No, I just want to say thank you, but it would be really good if we could actually come together, you know, even the ones that disagree, if we can maybe just come together and, you know, sort out our differences but at least, come to an agreement. It's not impossible, but, we should come to an agreement because it's definitely due.
Thank you, Phyllis. Appreciate the conversation. Yeah, let's see. Fahima's on the phone. Fahima calling from D.C. Go ahead.
Hi, Johnny and Che Pasta, Dominique. Just a couple of quick points. Can you hear me?
Yep. I don't know why everyone's asking that today. We hear you like we always do. Go ahead, real quick, because we're close to the end of the hour here.
This particular bill, that's called the Anti-Asian Hate Crime Bill, associated with issues around COVID, but it doesn't exclude other groups. It includes funding to agencies that will track hate and do data collection. The other thing, in the interest of time, the gentleman said that black people were the only one, as he calls himself, the freedmen are only ones that were attacked. When white supremacists go after people, black people, hurt, harm, and maim black people, they're not looking to see what pedigree of black you are. Amadou Diallo shot 41 times.
Right. Okay.
Lima sodomized in a precinct.
Point taken,
and
Fahima.
Sean Bell.
Let's have Rashid, respond to that, because it is true. Black people of every nationality are attacked, are victims of hate crimes in this country.
I agree, and I don't think that I said that we are the only. I said we could disaggregate those numbers, and we could show that we are still overrepresented in that, right? So if we were to pull out that 3,424 and say how many of these actual race-based, quote, hate crimes are based on the descendants of American chattel slavery, like, I would die on that hill that 95% of them were based on us.
All right, Fahima, you want to respond real quick?
I just want to say, with all due respect, I don't think white supremacists check to see what kind of Negro one is when they're looking to lynch someone, when they're looking to hurt, harm, and maim someone. I'm just going to end there.
All right, going straight to Carla, calling us from L.A. Hi, Carla.
Atlanta, Georgia. How are you? I hope you're doing great today, Dominique. I appreciate you having Freedmen Fridays. That's awesome. Thank you so much. And my question, I guess I'll make my stance. Inside of reparations, I believe that race, with the recent Supreme Court ruling, race should not be used in reparations. We run the risk of it being struck down by the Supreme Court. And so with this statement that you got to have a Negro to have a freedman, I wanted to ask Mr. Littlejohn if he understood that when, after we were emancipated in 1865 and on the first census of 1870, that our racial classification was not Negro, it was black. That didn't happen until like the 1920s, 1930s, I believe. And so if he understands that, I want to know also, why is he making this connection to the term Negro as if the United States government recognized black people to be Negroes after emancipation?
So my quick response to that is that laws were not based on the census. So even though it was black as a color classification on the census, the law still specified Negroes, right? When you look into the black codes, you actually see them use the terminology of Negroes. When you look at, the Reconstruction policies that we had to fight towards, we had to make sure that it included race, color, creed, national origin, right? So we know that the policies that were being positioned against us were utilizing race as a barrier to limit us from
Okay,
our rights.
we're up against the clock right here with news, traffic, and sports. Rashid Littlejohn, if you want to just, hang for a second for the beginning to land and finish your thought. Carla, stay with me. I think that's a great conversation because I've heard that argument a lot. If it is included, if race is included in reparations, it becomes an affirmative action or a Supreme Court issue and will not hold up. We'll look at that and more when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Moore. Now here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Two of Donald Trump's sons testified yesterday in the former president's civil fraud trial in New York. Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump both took the stand Thursday and were heavily questioned about their involvement with financial documents for the family business. Trump Jr. pointed to the company's accounting department and others for any inaccurate documents the Trump Organization sent to banks. Former North Carolina Tar Heels and Phoenix Sun star